Hey guys, welcome back to our class. So in our last session we discussed about the physical properties of metals. Now this is about the physical properties of non-metal. Okay. So first one, the important physical property of non-metal is what actually the non-metals are existing in the form of gases or solids. Okay, gases or solid. This is what the first property of non-metal, first physical property of non-metals. Non-metals are existing in the form of either solids or gases. But there is a what exception case. Bromine, the element means bromine, it is a non-metal, but it is existing in the form of liquid. So this is what the exception case. Okay, you please read the first four lines of under the heading non-metal, and you can understand these points what I told you. Okay, now so there is a question for you. Only we have to study only one physical property mainly. After this, we are going to understand. Suppose you are provided some elements or some molecules, and they are saying that, can you please classify the provided elements on the basis of their physical property into metals and non-metals? Means suppose you are provided some molecules, and within those both metals and non-metals are there, and the question is according to the what, according to the physical property, can you divide this metals this compounds into metals and non-metals? This is what your question, these elements into metals and non-metals. But the answer is what? No. Why? Because by using the physical property itself, we cannot distinguish the element, or we cannot classify the elements into metals and non-metals, because the reasons are provided here. First one, all metals except mercury exist as solid at room temperature. Okay, all metals except mercury exist at solid at room temperature. What is it actually? You studied metals are existing in solid state in the physical properties of metal, and in this session we studied that non-metals are existing in solid and gaseous state. Okay, so the solid state is what common in both metal and non-metal. So we cannot classify the given compound into metal or non-metal according to the nature is solid, according to the nature of its solid state. Okay, and also in case of what metals, there is an exception case. One metal, that is mercury, existing as liquid state in room temperature. Room temperature means normal temperature. Okay, now another point is here. So the metal high melting points, but gallium, cesium have very low melting point. Okay, metals have high melting point, means we need to apply more and more heat to melt a metal. For example, tin, lead, wires, and etc. On applying heat, it may be what, fuse. Okay, so we need to apply high temperature to melt what, metals. But there is an exception point also, exception case also. Two elements, gallium and cesium. What is it? Gallium and cesium have very low melting point. Okay, so why I am saying here this, because suppose you provided a lots of metal, you are finding the melting point, and those who have high melting point you are classifying into metals, and those who have low melting point you are classifying into non-metal. But that will be wrong, because there is an exception case. Gallium and cesium, those are metals, but they have low melting point. So again we are going to conclude that by using the physical property, we cannot classify the substance into metals and non-metals. Okay, by using only the physical property, we cannot conclude the substance into metal and non-metal. Okay, so the clarification of this I given in the first point. Mercury is liquid in room temperature. Gallium, cesium have low melting point. Okay, these are the exception case. Now, another exception case. Iodine is a non-metal, but it is lustrous. You studied the physical property of metals. Metals are lustrous. Their surface will shine. Am I right? But iodine is a non-metal and it is lustrous. So you have provided a compound, a substance that is lustering, then definitely you will classify it into metal. But that is wrong because iodine is a non-metal and it is lustrous. Again, I am saying by using the physical property, we cannot classify the given substance into metal and non-metal because lustering property is a what? Physical property. Okay, so by using this, we cannot classify the given material as metal or non-metal. Okay, now the third proof for this statement, carbon is a non-metal that can exist in different forms. Okay, carbon is a non-metal. You know, carbon, coke, coal. These all are carbons, different form. Graphite, it is another form of carbon. Graphite means, okay, within the pencil and all, we can see the graphite portion. Or anyway, carbon is a non-metal that exists in different forms. Each form is called an allotrope. What is it? Allotrope means the different form of same element is known as allotrope. Okay, and carbon's allotrope, for example, diamond. Yes, diamond is also what? Carbon. Okay, so diamond is an allotrope of carbon. It is very hard. You know about diamond. Diamond is very hardest one. Okay, hardest natural substance known as and has a very high melting point and boiling point and all. Graphite, another allotrope of carbon. It is a is a conductor of electricity. So you can define the difference between what? Hardness. Hardness is also the property of what? Metal. But carbon is a non-metal. It have both properties which is hard and also which is very conducting property. That is what conducting of electricity also the property of metals. And but carbon is, again I am concluding here, carbon is a non-metal. And the hardness, conducting of electricity, all are the property of what? Metal. But this is existing by, but this is what? Showing by carbon also. Carbon's different forms means diamond, graphite, both are different forms of carbon and that is known as allotrope. Okay, the diamond is very hard, graphite is conductor of electricity. So here both of these two are showing the physical properties of metal. So we cannot conclude by understanding or by using that property the carbon is coming under metal. We cannot conclude so because carbon is a non-metal. So again I am giving the conclusion for the statement. By using physical property, we cannot conclude or we cannot categorize the given material or the given substance into metals and non-metals. The fourth proof for that, for this statement is alkali metals. Alkali metals, lithium, sodium, potassium. What is alkali metals? You may be familiar with periodic table. The first line of periodic table is known as lines of alkali metals. Means the first the elements including in the first line of periodic table are known as alkali metals. Okay, so alkali metals, the example for that, lithium, sodium, potassium, are so soft and they can be cut with a knife. What is it actually? I told you that metals are very hard, but here also an exception, lithium, sodium, potassium. Those are metals, alkali metals, but they are very soft and they can cut with a knife. Okay, now they have low densities and low melting point. So I think you may be clear the statement what we told you, that by using the physical property, we cannot categorize any substance into metals and non-metals. Okay, so elements can be more clearly classified as metal and non-metal on the basis of their chemical property. Okay, so how we can conclude the given property, the given substance is metals and non-metals on the basis of their chemical property. Okay, most non-metals produce acidic oxides. So in our last session we will study about what the chemical properties of metals and non-metals. Okay, so this is what about our today's today's class. I think you may be clear what is the non-metal, what is the general property of non-metal: existing in solid and gaseous state, exception case for bromine which is existing in liquid state. And there is a question, uh, can you categorize the given substance into metal and non-metal on the basis of their physical property? Answer is no. And why? The exception cases are given here. Why? Means the proofs are given here in the 4 points. Okay, mercury is in liquids, existing in liquid state, but it is metal, and so on. So you please read carefully, make notes, and give me pass me your questions if